Thanks for coming tonight. We've had a very special guest. I met Randy. I want to say that I met Randy in Texas. And I've invited him to give a bit of a presentation tonight to you guys. He's going to talk a little bit about the essentials of developing... Sorry. Oh, he's going to talk to you about developing your state of mind, overcoming fear, that kind of stuff, which I'm going to say is very, very important in a market environment that we've got and the volatility that we've got and all that kind of stuff. Very, very anxious to let Randy go ahead and have a talk here. Very excited to see what he's got to say, and I'm going to turn the time over to him right now.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Rande Howell with Trader's State of Mind, and just a quick question to see if I'm in the right place. Has anybody in the last, month or so gotten a real serious case of jitters, of fear, of wondering what on earth are you doing as a trader in these volatile markets? Has anybody had that? Am I in the right place, folks? Yep. First, I would like to thank Metastocks and Jeff Gibby, because the truth is what it's really interesting is that people that will seek me out, particularly in the education side, they are people who have recognized that they have to go beyond just selling product. They actually have to help the trader not just train on their product. What they're doing is they're also realizing that for a long-term relationship, an essential element of being able to be a successful trader is being able to transform the way you think and believe about the markets, and that begins with the overcoming of fear. And that's what we're going to be doing tonight. So first, I really congratulate Metastocks. I congratulate Jeff. And if you are a user of Metastocks, you already know the value of what they do. And if you're not, give them a think through. It's a part of what I call external discipline, and you need it. And what we're going to be talking about tonight from a psychological standpoint is internal discipline. Completely different things. You're going to be learning a lot about trader psychology, and particularly what blocks you from experiencing the success that you know is possible and what you can do about it. Most people get into trading because they have a dream. They have a dream of financial success independent from being a working man, and they have a dream of personal freedom, personal time freedom. And they get in and they start this stuff, and 2 or 3 years later, it's not nearly as easy as they thought. Trading is a serious business. And they get there and they understand the methodology. And when they're back testing it, when they're simulated trading, they do well. It's kind of like the guy, as we were preparing and we were sitting around, one guy said, "My goal is to trade without emotion like I do in simulation." That's a great goal. And then not moving my stops. The problem is there is a triggering element that you're going to come to understand tonight that stops that, and we're going to learn how that happens and what can be done about it. So what we're going to fundamentally do is we're going to find out what is it that stops us from achieving our potential, how that fear is organized, and then we're going to learn what to do about it. To do that, let's start kind of in the beginning. Not with legalese, though. Okay. The key is the mindset that you brought into trading is not the mindset that is going to bring success into your trading. This is something that you ultimately have to come to understand. Actually, this comes from a quote. A person came to me and he showed me a business card, and what he had is a bunch of gold on it, photograph of gold, and he says, "I want to be worth a ton of gold." And I said, "Well, that's a great vision. That's a great vision. I'm glad you have done all your visioning and your affirmations and stuff like that." But I said, "Tell me something. Who do you need to become that you aren't right now to make that possibility show up?" The man was stunned. And what we're going to do, what you're going to learn out very, very quickly, is that it is not your methodology that trades. It is your current mindset that trades your methodology. Now, to do that, let's take one step further than going, "Oh my God, what is going on here?" What does successful trading actually, what does it look like when it's happening? It's a synthesis, friends. It's an integration of your trading system, your platform, and all that cool information Jeff can give you. Okay? And then there's a methodology. There's a methodology that gives you the ability to manage risk, to manage probability, so that if you're in the zone, if you're working with the right set of emotions, you have the edge in the market and you're going to make money. Cool. That's where most people stay. That's why people, they tweak, they keep looking for the holy grail outside of the self, and they run from one methodology, one system, one platform to another, trying to find that external discipline, that if only they had that one little thing, that they would move into the area of profitability and their dreams would come true. Unfortunately, reality doesn't work that way. The other leg of this powerful stool, three-legged stool, is trader psychology. The truth of the matter is that you trade your beliefs. And we're going to be learning more about beliefs tonight. But fundamentally, what I like about trading as a group of people to work with is that there's no BS in it. If your beliefs are such that they're effective, there is going to be cash showing up in your trading account. If your beliefs are not the kind of beliefs that allow you to be successful in trading, it is going to show as a withdrawal in your trading account. So there's no grayscale. It is black and white. You can see whether or not the beliefs that you are bringing into trading that are driving your mindset, that drive your methodology and use your platform, you can tell point blank whether or not it's an effective set of beliefs. And that is the place where most people mess up. Fundamentally, what people who are very good traders and trader education groups will say is that 80% of trading occurs between your two ears. That is what we're looking at tonight. And you darn well better have an excellent program. You better have a platform. You better have a system. You better have your indicators. You better have that stuff down. You better have a methodology. You better have it, or you're just gambling. However, understand this. No matter how fancy of a machine that you're driving while trading, the point is you're still driving that machine. If you do not know how to drive effectively the methodology and the platform you have, it's for naught. You're getting all dressed up, but you don't have the skill sets to perform in the clutch. So, let's take a look at this. Oh, and by the way, please do this. You can write questions in, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be holding the questions, unless something just absolutely grabs us, until the end. Please write them in. My producer will keep them, and if they're easy ones, it's going to happen, and she can answer. Otherwise, I'll be handing them to the end. So, how do you actually build a peak performance state of mind for trading? The most difficult first step is to step out of self-delusion, to step out of being stubborn and recognizing that you're keeping blowing yourself up, and the truth is it's not your methodology, it's not your platform most likely, it is in fact the mind that you are bringing. That's the first one. The second is to accept fully every bit of responsibility for your trading performance. As long as responsibility lies out of the self, you are not going to be able to get access to the self and change it, to take responsibility and change the way you believe about markets and uncertainty. Then you have to make a commitment to changing your self-limiting beliefs. You have to be able to see them, and then you have to say, I am going to muster up the courage, and what I'm going to do is I have enough passion for trading that I am going to make myself into the person who can trade well. And then, actually, an even more difficult trick is then find a process of change that really works. Really. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And what we're going to do, let's take a look at a process. And this is a process that I teach. And this is a process that I have found very successful over time, not just with traders, but in any place where there is peak performance possibility and the person is not achieving the peak performance that he knows is possible. What we're looking for is the roadblocks that stop them, and how do you go about building a psychology? And here you go. The first thing is you are going to have to learn emotional regulation of fear and impulse. I teach this from a Herbert Benson perspective of relaxation response. It is not the answer. It's not going to solve the problem. But what it does is it allows you to interrupt an emotion before it hijacks mind. That is critical. The second one is to develop mindfulness as a tool. Most people, particularly, I was seeing where Jeff was running his stuff tonight, and 78% of the crowd here is from the United States tonight. In the United States, as I'm an American, in the United States, what you'll discover is mindfulness is just simply something that is not even understood. The ability of being self-reflective. We have a consumer-driven economy, and we're taught not to think. We're taught to consume. And when you get into trading, you better learn how to think critically. So we're going to be developing mindfulness as a tool. Then, as you develop mindfulness as a tool, the ability to step back and to observe and recognize that you and your thoughts, you and your beliefs are not the same. What you do is you develop that tool into finding the self-limiting historical internal dialogue, all those thoughts running around in your head that absolutely blow up your trading. We'll talk more about this later. Then, using that tool, you develop other stuff where you learn how to disrupt that internal dialogue, and you start discovering and developing much more powerful inner resources that live within you. And they become part of the dialogue of your thought, and that is what trades. It's powerful stuff. The fifth step that I teach is this, is that you become intentional, literally intentional about what mindset you bring, not just to trading, but to any circumstance in your life. You're no longer historically drifting in beliefs that you are blind to. What you do is you develop the ability to have these inner resources developed so that you are looking at uncertainty, and instead of engaging uncertainty from fear-mindedness, what you do is you engage uncertainty from a position where your mindset is rooted in discipline, in patience, in courage, and in impartiality. These are the elements that you develop, and this is the mind that you bring to your trading. Powerful stuff. And with that, I tell you what, let's break these things down and take a look at them. The first is emotional state management. It has to be done. And before we start with emotional management, let's talk about an emotion because they're really, truly misunderstood. This comes out of the work of Stephen Stosny when he was at the University of Maryland. It's powerful emotional intelligence work. And here's the deal. An emotion is not a feeling. An emotion is any triggering that creates a deviation in a standard, familiar, sensorial pattern that the brain has established. Wow, does that sound like some gobbledygook to you? The truth is, man, you need to listen to it. An emotion is biological. It is not psychological. The biology overwhelms your psychology. Anytime you have a standard sensorial pattern, you turn on your computer, you begin to look at setups, and everything's cool and stuff like that. The trades start getting hot, and you start seeing criteria, and you start seeing entry points. Suddenly what happens is that standard pattern has now changed. Automatically, an emotion's going to pop up. For most traders, because they don't know how to emotionally regulate themselves, fear shows up. So now we know. And here's the deal. Here's the deal, my friends. It's the lack of management of fear is what keeps you prisoner to losing. Because what fear is going to do, it is going to hijack objective thinking. And if you want to write something down, here it is. All thinking is emotional state dependent. Thinking is by definition going to have an emotional component that directs it. What happens is this fear that hijacks thinking then creates a fear-based herd mentality. Okay? Then you and your trading become bonded to the 95% of the trading pack driven by fear. Really good traders and market makers are then racing you, getting you to go to the cliff and run over, and they're going to profit from it. Then you make decisions out of your trading, not on your trading plan, but on avoidance or impulse. Remember, all thinking is emotional state dependent. And then you transfer capital to the 5% of traders who are disciplined and impartial. That's the way it works. And the truth is beliefs cannot be changed until emotion is regulated. That's why the first several weeks of my work is all emotional regulation work, because you're not going to get there and you get that piece done. But let's keep on with this, okay? Let's actually look at the elements of an emotion so that we can begin to see how to conquer the emotion, to master it, and to transform the emotional content of our thinking. The first part of an emotion that you have to be very critical about is arousal. Arousal is that part of you when you're sitting there and you're getting excited and all of a sudden you get fixated and all of a sudden your eyes are bulging and you quit breathing and your muscles are tense, your jaw's just absolutely there. That's arousal. If it reaches a critical mass, what happens is it flips the switch and the emotion goes haywire on you and it hijacks thinking. You can interrupt it right here. I teach people to become an observer of that arousal. The second part of an emotion that is vital is motivation. All emotion, understand, it's emotion. This is about movement. This is about motion. It's not about thinking. There are three primary ways that emotion is going to trigger. It's going to take you down avoidance. All you who do hesitation, you know that. It will take you down impulse. All you know about attack motivations will know that. The mindful trader is going to be using an emotional motivation called approach. It is something that is learned. He learns how to do this so that he stays calm, he stays disciplined, and he has a management about where he's going. The third part of an emotion, critical part, is the meaning. This is where the self-limiting belief becomes fused into the emotion, and suddenly it starts becoming your identity. The fourth part is feeling. This is the subjective experience of the emotion, and it's literally what the chemistry of the emotion feels like in your body. And when you feel the emotion, it's too late. The emotion is full throttle in you. And it usually takes anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour and a half for the emotion, the feeling, to burn out if you know what you're doing to regulate it. You're looking to keep that emotion from exploding, getting into your system, and producing the chemistry of feeling. The last part, I don't have very much to say about. It's temperament. That's the genetic predisposition that you bring in just simply because of the genetics and your history and your evolution. Can't do anything about that, so there you go. The point here, my friends, is emotion is biological. It takes physiology unless managed. And there you go. Now, when we take all this gobbledygook, how does it actually work in action? Okay, and here it is. What you will do, and I want you to think about trading. I want you to think about when you're in a trading and all of a sudden you can begin to find out later that fear has taken over, impulse has taken over. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to experience arousal. It's very common for a person literally to feel the tenseness, to feel the fixation, to feel the eyes bulging, to feel just the whole gut going nuts. And then suddenly what you're going to notice is short, shallow breathing where only about a sixth, maybe a third of your lung capacity is being used. It's cutting off oxygen supply to the brain, which fuels fear and takes away the possibility of an emotional state like impartiality, which is necessary for trading. And by the way, for all you guys who think that you want to trade without emotions, the only time you don't have an emotion is when you're dead. What you want is you want emotional state management so that you have the emotions you want there trading. And it just so happens that rational impartiality is an emotional state. And it's just that it's one that's very, very useful for trading. Then the body tenses up. It's preparing for flight. The heart starts racing. Now what you've done is you're dumping adrenaline and cortisol into the system and you're getting cranked up. You're getting the feeling going now. Rational way thinking is now swept away by fearful thinking, and suddenly what you're doing, where a calm, deliberate person was trading simulated a while back, you do your back testing, you do your charting, you get into trading, and then you're sitting there, and suddenly your thinking is no longer back there without fear. It has been contaminated by fear. And suddenly the probability is disaster. So, now within here, let's take a look at the negative emotional meaning that become attached to fear. We've talked about arousal. Ultimately, what can be traced down to, and this would be very difficult for most men to hear, okay? But this is part of the psychological demon that you have to face to overcome the block that fear is to your trading. Is the meaning that gets attached to the emotion of fear is that you are inadequate, that you really don't matter, that you're unworthy, or in particular, that you're powerless. And a lot of people who begin to get into trading, what happens is they feel powerless. And as long as you do that, what happens is that it is going to dominate the emotional thinking, and you're there. And you're not going to look at a mirror and affirm yourself out of this. It is something that is an internal struggle, and you're going to learn how to bring forth a very different reality than the one you presently have that you inherited from your history. The truth is change cannot happen without emotional regulation. That's one of the true problems with psychotherapy, okay? So, now let's take a look at emotional motivation. An emotional motivation, there are only three things that an emotion fundamentally is going to do. It's going to compel you to avoid. Okay, that's all of you guys who hesitate. That's all you guys who sit there and decide you need to go take a coffee break, you need to go to the bathroom, you need to do some emails, you need to call somebody, and what you do is you avoid. That is avoidance. That is the hesitation. That's that being able to sit there and having your finger on the button, ready to pull the trigger, and all of a sudden what happens is your finger is frozen. Because within avoidance is run, hide, freeze, submit. This is a powerful problem with trading, as you might imagine. I'm probably not telling anybody anything. The second motivation is attack. You're attacking the perceived threat. This is anger. And if you've ever revenge trade, you know, if you've ever just absolutely going to take it back from the market, if you've ever done impulsive trading, if you've ever done overtrading, you know what this motivation is. It has seized you, it has taken you, and it has taken your thinking to a place that has made you dumb and stupid. The thing is, you don't have to be. You have to become a very emotional, literate person to trade because it's going to teach you. The last emotional motivation is approach. This is where you regulated fear and you're approaching from curiosity, you're approaching from an open-mindedness. And this is called mindful trading, which we're going to be getting into. So now that we've put all this stuff together and we're beginning to understand emotions a little better, let's use it to answer the question, why do I keep doing the same stupid things over and over and over again? The truth is, your brain is a negative assessment machine. It assumes negative bias no matter what. Look at the news that you listen to, it's all negative. There's no positive, it won't attract attention. The second thing, your brain does not distinguish between uncertainty from fear. And the truth is, a trader is a manager of uncertainty. And unfortunately, your brain's not doing you any helpful part because it does not distinguish between the two. You have to make that distinction, and you have to recreate the memory circuits. Then it organizes you to avoid uncertainty and fear, and you get locked into a comfort zone, into your suffering. And you just stay there. You may only lose a little, but you never achieve potential. Then it forms self-fulfilling patterns. This is your limbic system, by the way, based on avoidance of fear and uncertainty. So now you're really stuck. Your comfort zone has become a prison. Then the patterns go on automatic, and you're blind to them, and it dominates your state of mind. And suddenly you start finding what you fear. If you're looking for fearful stuff, if you're trading not to lose, I can promise you, you're going to find good reasons not to trade. You'll hesitate, you'll sit there, and you'll beat yourself up later. And suddenly what you're doing as a pattern, you are trading from avoidance or greed rather than from calm impartiality. This is the you that trades. And my friends, fear is not going to go away. You're not going to click your heels. You're not going to do some NLP. You're not going to be able to do some affirmations. You're not going to do power thinking to get beyond belief systems that are neurally wired. You're going to have to remind them. You're going to have to find a way of getting at them. So here it is. Here's what I really want you to grasp. This is the glitch in the brain. This is what stops you from not being able to follow your trading plan. What I'd said is the brain does not distinguish fear from uncertainty, and it is biased to seek certainty, even though there is no such thing as certainty in trading for sure, and I would say in life also. And here's the way it works. Here's the process that you go through to blow yourself up. You start with uncertainty because that is exactly what trading is. The problem with simulated trading, the truth is there's no risk to the uncertainty you're looking at. The moment that you started trading your own money, there's risk. The uncertainty then produces ambiguity. You could lose. You could win. You don't know. Your brain wants certainty. What you get instead is confusion. The brain interprets confusion as the fear of death. And boom, there you are in fear. Fear is triggered, and all of a sudden you are swept away, and you've become a crazy person trading. This is not good. Most people stay stuck in this biological glitch that takes over their psychology of performance. It does not have to be that way, friends. It does not have to be that way. And let's take a look at how you actually change this. The first way is through emotional regulation. You end up interrupting the arousal and the motivational elements of fear that we talked about, and this gives you the capacity to manage the emotions so that it doesn't sweep your rational thinking away. If you go back the first 2 to 3 weeks of my program, what's happening is people are just simply observing their arousal and their emotional nature, and what they're discovering is breathing and breathing alone with relaxation can really help them. Because what happens is breathing actually is a component of the emotion. If you change the breath style of fear into diaphragmatic breathing, the fear cannot stay on board. And you learn how to produce the biology that produces a calm state of mind. So that with the relaxation response training, and there you go, you get it. And the truth is, Herbert Benson figured this out about 30 years ago, studying Hindus, the yogas of the Hindu, and he extrapolated the religion out of it, and he got to the process, and he realized that he was able to interrupt this. If you want a good read, it's very important. The problem with his work is it does not change meaning, and this is what has to occur. Now, here's the key. By itself, emotional regulation is not a game changer. It gives you a chance, okay? It's the skill that you have to develop to get to the door of the mind. Because when you calm the body, it stills the mind. And then rather than out of control emotions hijacking thinking, the mind can be approached calmly. You actually have a skill. And this is how we get to the next skill, okay? And this is where it starts getting very interesting. The second skill is you have to develop mindfulness. You have to be able to say, you know, I can step back. I can become a witness to my thoughts, but I don't have to become fused to them. And suddenly what happens is you start discovering something very interesting, that you and your thoughts are not the same. What's happened is you have been blind and you have not developed the capacity of observation of your thought. And by doing that, you fuse with the thought and it carries you away. And it's something that this is where the fundamental of discipline begins right here, is recognizing that you are not all these crazy thoughts running around in your head. You can fuse to them and they can take you off into that whirl, but that's just one possibility. With training, you create a totally different probability of what mindset shows up. So, going on with this, in mindfulness, you're no longer under a character assassination. What you're doing is you're becoming aware of the embedded biases, the self-limiting beliefs, and thoughts that are driving your perception without you even knowing it. Most of these are preconditions. These are things this happened in your history. You got born into this history. You adapted to this history and during the formative period of your brain. And it just so happens it shows up in trading, and these are preconditions. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to change. And you recognize this whole thing is that you and your thoughts are not the same. Powerful, powerful, powerful. And this is what the Zen Buddhist folks have taught us. It's a powerful part of it. And here you end up developing The observing self is a witness to the coming and going of thought. And suddenly what you do is you experience an inordinate freedom from your anxiety. And this is when you can start developing a distance between your historical pattern. But that's not enough. That's still not enough. Because ultimately, what happens is, here's the deal, here's the rub. Your brain adapts you to historical circumstances to which you're born. There's no escape. Before you can think, your sense of self is organized for survival around these identity influencing factors. This is your dispositions that you bring to trading. They go on automatic. We become blind to them. They're so familiar to us. It is like water to a fish. You wouldn't even know it's there. It's so familiar. And then here's the key, and here's the thing you need to really grasp to grow up and really become a human being, is you do not have thoughts and beliefs. They have you. And then what happens is, as you stay mindless, you trade your beliefs. And unfortunately, most of them, you'll find out really quickly, are self-limiting beliefs. So, now that we have a course running through mindfulness, we develop the mindfulness, then we start using it as a tool. What we're doing now is we're bringing to light the self-limiting beliefs so that we can become aware of them. When we become aware of them as our biases, a powerful new opportunity happens. You have the ability of reviewing your trading day, and you start seeing, oh my God, I know that thought. Okay, that's not me. Well, where does it come from? That's when it becomes very interesting. You quit wasting money on self-limiting beliefs. And if you've ever had this sensation like this, where you've sat there and says, oh, you're so stupid, I made the same mistake again. What you're doing is you're using the tool of mindfulness to get light into the hidden thought life of your beliefs. This is powerful, because then you're going to start observing the internal dialogue. It's interesting. What I want you to do is think of the time where you have most trouble in trading. And fundamentally, most of the time, it's either at entry point where you're trying to pull the trigger, trying to make a decision, trying to actually put capital to risk, and then when you enter the trade, everything goes bonkers and you get the jitters. Those are two of the phenomenal places, or when you actually get something going and you end up shorting yourself. And ultimately, what you discover is that that is not internal chatter, idle chatter going on in your mind. That's an internal dialogue. It's the difference between noise and substance. Because what you are doing is your thoughts give voice to the self-limiting beliefs that arise in your mind. Instead of just being noise, man, you're going, oh my God, okay, I am going to learn who this is running around in my head. These are self-limiting beliefs that are showing up as thoughts. This is powerful. You're born into this, okay? You adapt to this. You come to believe it is you. But it's not. And if you're going to change, if you're going to build a new relationship with fear and uncertainty, this is the tool you use. Now, how do you tune into this self-limiting beliefs of your internal dialogue? Well, friends, we're going to do it right here and right now. What I want you to do is go back to where you have the biggest problem in your trading. Just remember, like for instance, when you're trying to pull the trigger, all there is you, your screens, your computer. There's nobody else there. You are alone with your thoughts. And then we're going to say, well, let's examine those thoughts. There's always an internal dialogue. There's always an internal struggle, two opposing forces within the mind. And here it goes. There is one force called the inner critic. If you have ever beat yourself up for making a mistake or being on the wrong side of probability, you have experienced the kind of character assassination that the inner critic does. And remember, the inner critic is a resonant part of your biology. You're a negative assessment machine, and it develops a voice in your head. If you've ever felt yourself criticizing yourself and have a sense of not measuring up or not good enough, or if you're tempted to take trades that you know darn well later weren't in your plan, you know the inner critic. If you have the sky is falling attitude, you know the inner critic. Okay, there's one. What I'm asking you to do is to write these down, because this is powerful. This can allow you to really truly get a handle on your mind and about who's running it. And the deal is for you to wake up in mindfulness and start designing the mind to trade and organize itself, become a much better trading mind. Now, the adapted voice, there's this other voice running around, and what you're going to notice that it is fear or greed based. There's the doubter. I can never win. The victim, actually. Chicken Little. That's the negative interpretation. No matter what you see, you have a negative interpretation. You have good reasons not to get in any of those trades all the time, and suddenly you find yourself on the sideline all the time. The gambler, that's the person who believes that they're not going to leave any money on the table. They're, okay, there's my target. I'm going to keep on. I'm going to keep on. I'm going to go. And here's the big one. Here's the one that as much as 75% of you in this crowd tonight, somewhere between 62 and 75% of you will identify with. The perfectionist. I have to win every time. I have to win every time. And you know for certain that in trading, if you're winning 50% of the time and you have a ratio of 2 to 1, you're making tons of money. But you're losing 50% of the time. So you know you're going to lose. And yet the mindset, the adapted voice within you has to win every time or they get anxious. This is a very dangerous position. Then the entitled one. I've studied so much. I've done this. I deserve to win. I've paid $50,000 to learn how to trade. I deserve to win. So what? The con, this is when you're lying to yourself. And if you've ever been in a lot of these chat rooms where everybody's talking about how great they're doing, the truth is 90% of those people are lying and they're losing money. And the ones who are making money probably are keeping quiet. The fraud, this is when you pretend to look good when you know you're not. You go to a cocktail party, what they ask you what you do, you talk about trader, and then you talk about what a great blah, 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 all this stuff in trading. The truth is you're a lousy trader. You're an inconsistent trader. Fraud. Orphan. If you have ever experienced fear as you trade, you've experienced what Carl Jung calls the orphan. It is your limbic system, and it is your response to fear, to threat, to uncertainty. This is the part that has to truly come under management for you to grow into the trader you could be. The saboteur. This is the part of you that things are going pretty good. You've got a couple days, a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, and then this conversation in the back of your mind starts going, it's just too good, it's too good. Something's going to blow up. It can't go on this good. And boom, there you go. The alpha male. This is particularly a condition with American executives coming out of corporate America. They are taught to win. They are taught this whole thing, take no prisoners, blah, 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 and they set a goal, and they're going to make that goal happen. And they come into trading with this sense of control, this sense of like being able to dominate. And what they quickly discover is the markets really don't care about their training. They don't care about what they used to do. The truth is that you cannot make the market do anything. What you do is you learn that your job is to respond to what the market will give you. Really hard for this group of people to deal with. So, what do you do when you start asking yourself these things? What you do when you start wanting to identify the internal dialogue, you start saying, what is this thought saying? And you keep a log. It starts becoming your psychological log that goes with your trading plan log. And then you go, what is the emotion attached to the thought? Okay? Then you start asking what component of the internal dialogue, and here we're talking about this negative stuff, that's associated with that emotion. Then you ask the critical question, is this thought voice true to the conditions of my trading plan? If it is the adapted voice and the inner critic, no, it's not going to be. That's when you start realizing that you have been in self-deception and you need to start coming out. There is no reason not to know thyself in trading. You know, and being mindful of historical internal dialogue is not enough. If you notice, this just keeps on and on and on. It's like being in therapy for years. There was a psychotherapist, I was noticing she was saying that I've been a psychotherapist for I don't know how long, and now I'm trying to learn how to deal with my fear. Well, here it is. You can be in therapy for years, and you know what your problem is. You describe it really well, but you don't know how to change it. Completely different things. What's needed is a process of change, my friends, where your self-limiting beliefs are challenged and reorganized into a higher functioning that trades well. That's what let's go to now. What I want you to describe, this is the skill 4, and what I want you to notice how all these things integrate with one another. You start with emotional regulation, so you can just get a handle on the emotion, okay, instead of getting wiped out. Then you start, from there, you start saying, okay, now mindfulness becomes awakened. and suddenly you have awareness as a tool. Then with awareness as a tool, you start going after the internal dialogue, and you start with a tremendously new, different understanding of mind and self occur. Then what you do is you begin to unlock the potential living within you. And here, the very first thing is, here's the assumption I hold about mind. The mind is actually a trading committee where your beliefs show up and they're actually deciding trading. And the real question is, who controls your trading committee? And if you remain mindless, what you will do is you will continue trading in your self-limiting beliefs. You will never be able to move from sim trading where you think you're emotionless into trading where risk occurs, and suddenly you don't know how to deal with uncertainty and fear crops up, and there you are, and you're moving your stops around, you're moving your targets around, you're gambling. The truth is, you need to understand that thoughts give voice to your beliefs. You have been mindless about the forces going on in the mind, and you need to wake up sooner rather than later. That's the deal. You have the power to reinvent the conversations going on within the self. You really, truly do. There is always a power struggle going on within the committee of the self, and you, till now, have been asleep at the wheel. It's high time that you woke up and took back your heritage, took back your dignity, took back the power that has been invested in you. And that brings us to actually developing a powerful committee, and I call it awakening the heroes. And my friends, the truth is, within the potential, within the human condition, okay, is that in the very same way that you experience fear and judgment, they reside in you, so do discipline, so do patience, so do courage, so do impartiality. They're part of the human condition. The only difference is, are you building the mindset that brings these elements into the trading day, or are you bringing fear and judgment in? Fear and judgment's easy. It's what's already there. And my friends, I can tell you this. If you have a memory of when you stood firm in the face of uncertainty, you then have the capacity to build that memory into a mindset that can trade. I do it all the time. I call it memory enrichment, and it's a way to get at the emotional states that build states of mind. These are inherent elements of the self already there. We're just finding a way to access them in a very reality-based way. Or, in what neurobiology would call symbolic representation, if you have ever been inspired by a heroic character in a movie or in real life, you have experienced a part of your own self waiting to be developed. When I came across Nelson Mandela, he blew me away. I could not believe this guy. He tried rational to beat the Afrikaners. That didn't work. He was a Harvard-trained attorney. He tried machine guns. That didn't work. Then they put him in solitary confinement for 3 years, and there he discovered compassion as a weapon, and he brought down the Afrikaner government, along with a lot of other people, but powerful, powerful. So the thing is, it's already there. It's already there. And what I do is I use a Jungian system where I'm going, okay, what I know is an archetype is an inherent, permanent, indestructible element of strength embedded into the very biology and psychology of our humanness. It is there simply by the fact that you breathe and are alive. And they can be brought into awareness, and they can be developed into strength rather than pushed out of awareness. Fundamentally, just as fear lives in you, so do these inherent elements of the self. Discipline is an emotional state attached to the element of self called ruler. It's going to keep order. It's your chairman of the board. Patience as an emotion, or self-compassion, or self-soothing, is an emotional element called caregiver in Jungian language. And it is absolutely necessary. It is the antidote to fear. Without compassion, without self-compassion, you will never change self-limiting beliefs. Nelson Mandela did it in South Africa. Jesus the Christ and the Christian Bible did it and produced miracles from that. It is just simply a way it happens. Courage, the emotional state courage, is something that in Jungian archetypal language is called warrior. It just so happens it lives within each of us. If any guy in here has seen the movie Gladiator and has experienced Maximus, if you have ever experienced Braveheart, you have felt the stirring of the warrior ruler living within you. It is there. Your job is to bring it into being. The thing is, when you start adding these elements together, from the emotional regulation to the mindfulness to the being able to spot the internal dialogue, and then beginning to develop the internal dialogue beyond the historical, but into the new range of possibilities, you discover that you can intentionally bring conscious aspects that you have pushed out into your trading mind, and that is where change really occurs. So ultimately, what you're doing in the work that I do, ultimately, when everything is down to develop possibility within the human being, what I do is you learn to intentionally summon courage, the ruler, into your trading committee of the mind. You intentionally summon courage, the warrior. Intentionally summon impartiality. That's the sage. That's the piece you want trading. As if it's not contaminated by fear, you end up being able to trade your plan. That's the part doing that. Patience, the caregiver. That's when you self-soothe yourself. You know, something bad happens, you soothe yourself down. You know, you get into a trade and you're scared, you soothe yourself down rather than curse yourself out. Cursing yourself out will never work. It just makes the problem worse. This, my friends, is the game changer. So then, you've got these elements. Then what happens is you actually start changing the self that trades. The struggle is going to be there, friends. That's the nature of being human. However, you stack the deck, you build the committee so that the struggle is in your favor. And what happens is by developing these parts of the personality, you change the committee of the mind that trades. You're able to confront your own psychological demons and fears from a position of strength rather than avoidance and weakness. You transform your self-limiting beliefs into life-affirming beliefs. Those are the ones that begin trading anew. And that's where change so very much happens. Your internal dialogue changes its interpretation of uncertainty from fear to risk management of probability. That's the ticket, my friend. That's the ticket. So, ultimately then, what we have here is mindset and the management of uncertainty. On the left side, you're looking at a typical trader's mind that they would show up and when they start working with me. They have a fear and impulse-based mindset. Okay, they got the hesitation, they got the impulse going. And what they do is they're trading mindlessly. They don't know why they're doing this. They're just a bull in a china shop. It just keeps blowing up. They know they may sense something is necessary. And what happens is they stay locked and unaware of their potential. The inner critic stays the source of their self-limiting beliefs without challenge, and the adapted voice keeps reacting from fear or impulse. That is where 95% of traders lose their money, and they finally get out of trading because they aren't willing to do the hard work of reinventing the self. Or on the right side, what you begin to see is a person who begins to emotionally regulate. They start having a calm, focused mindset that gives them access to mindful trading. They become commander of the internal dialogue, of the trading committee in the mind. No longer is it dominated by criticism. No longer is it dominated by fear. But it comes forth. It is held together by discipline, the ruler living within you. And suddenly the sage is doing the trading. That's the impartiality. That's the clear thinking that you want. The warrior, the courage is there to pull the trigger and to confront the demons within you. The patience is there to cool down the fear of the orphan. And everything that drives this is passion, your passion. So, my friends, what happens? We've come a long way. My hope is what you've seen is that there is a lot of potential going on within your mind that's available to you. Part of it's pretty easy. You start with emotional regulation work. Then it gets into more complications where you start learning mindfulness. Then you use mindfulness as a tool. It goes on and it progresses so that you become the inventor. You become the inventor of the self that trades. It's something that happens all the time. It's very trainable. And here's what I encourage. I actually have a couple offers for you. One is, if you're just looking and really, just looking for entertainment, go to my website. I have large numbers of articles there. I have psychological tests there that they're all free. Take them, use them. Dump your head full of cognition. It's good stuff. For people going, wow, who is this guy? What is he about? Get my book. Start there. Most people get the book and they read it 3 or 4 times within 2 to 3 weeks. They just absolutely dog-ear it. It's a fantastic thing. Now, I also have 2 other offers. One is a little later this month, I'm offering a workshop on developing the trader's mind. These very skills that we're talking about right here, I'm going to be teaching over a 4-week period where it's a webinar course where we meet for 2 hours every Wednesday night for 4 weeks, and you're going to learn these very skills. It's a very highly experiential process. You're going to feel this stuff. And if you go ahead and act now, what you can do is you can get a $100 discount for that. It's normally $750, and you can have it for $650. For people who are going, this is really interesting stuff. I really want to check it out. I really need to take action. This is something that's really considerable. However, if you're in a place where you know what I'm saying is dead on money, you know that this is something you need to do and need to change, I encourage you to get a free consult with me for my personal course. The personal course has 10 consults in it. It has what I call the 10-pound package. It's a very powerful course. And it goes through this stuff, but on a highly personalized level. These are the options I ask you to consider. And my friends, with that, I really want to thank Metastocks. I want to thank Jeff, and I give thanks that the tools that they provide traders so that they can really make good decisions. And at this particular point in time, I would be happy to entertain questions from you. And so, let her rip. Or what happens, we can take an earlier good night, and that would be fine with me too. So, are there any questions? Okay, I don't see any. So Jeff. What question here? We have a question. Can this work for other parts
of your life?
Oh gosh, yeah, it's such a wonderful question. Actually, what happens is about 5 years ago, I didn't really know traders, and I did peak performance work. And one day, a guy showed up, and he was a trader having problems. And ultimately, what happened is we applied this work to trading, and he became very, very good. But what happens is traders who use my work discover that other elements of their life change powerfully. Is this NLP? No, it is not. There are certain elements that I use of NLP. Neuro-linguistic programming is, to me, from my perspective, very surface stuff. You're able to get some linguistic programming, but you do not change belief structure. Then until you change the biology of belief, you do not change anything. NLP, hypnosis by themselves are going to change surface stuff. The old pattern is going to come back. You have to change at a much more fundamental level. Name of your book. The name of my book is, what is the name of my book? It's Mindful Trading. It's mastering your emotions in the inner game. And I would encourage people to get the e-version. I have made some additions to the e-version that are not in the printed version. I go over symbolic representation and memory enrichment, which are very powerful techniques that you can use I would prefer working with a teacher, but it's potent. Go to my website. You can read the first chapter for free, and you can see a bunch of people who've read it and what their opinions are about it. Okay. How will this help someone who is considering trading? It's not. This work is not for people considering trading, okay? This work is for people who have been trading for 2 or 3 years and have developed a methodology that they can back test and they can simulate tests, and they know that they have a methodology that works. When they go live and they actually put capital at risk, what they discover is that they have not got their psychology screwed on right, and until they get their psychology down, it's not going to happen. People who get into trading really need to look at 2 or 3 years of methodology work where they come to the moment where they know how to trade. At that particular time, getting to the mind becomes really important. Okay, what I mean is that I've found that other failures in my life have made me feel that I've got about failing in trading. What's very common, I just finished up with a guy today, as a matter of fact, where, you know, when he started the individual coach sessions with me, he says, Randy, I'm probably not going to use this as part of my trading. The truth is that I'm sitting here in my 50s and I really need to look at myself. I don't know how to do it. And what happened is he, in the way he got brought up, stability was a really serious problem. And what would happen is that he learned to kind of, he would get things and not let them go. He wanted certainty, and it got into his, and it was all over his life. He has a 20 by 60 garage full of junk that he won't let go of. It's not just trading, okay? And in trading, he literally could not let go of stability and certainty and had a hard time moving into trades. What he came to in our work was a vast realization of how he came to be the human being that he is and how he's reconstructing that self. And amazingly, he did not do it with the intention, the outright intention of becoming a better trader. He was actually looking to solve some problems that he knew that he had that had not been solved elsewhere. So it works in all domains. It's powerful work. And people who are really serious about considering this, when you have an interview, I'll be more than happy to give you references and have you talk with them and see what the experience was, because it's, you know, this has been 20 years in the making, and it's really interesting work. Okay, I think that's about it, my friends. I want to thank you. I want to thank Jeff. I want to thank Metastocks. I want to thank their vision of bringing trader psychology into the mix of learning and teaching people how to trade. It shows you that they're just not trying to sell product. They are trying to sell you stuff and build you as long-term success. And I cannot ask more for an affiliation. That's the kind of folks I want to hang out with and work with. I know they're with me. So, my hour's up. I wish you well. I wish you great trading. And if I can help you move beyond the roadblock of where you are into a higher level of trading in life, I would love to have the honor of working with you. So, friends, until next time, I wish you well and have a great life.
All right, Randy, thanks for that. We appreciate it. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today to today's class. We'll see you at the next class, and thanks for the attendance. Appreciate it.